Well, it's definite no. The House of Representatives will now come to order. Will all in the chamber and gallery please rise as we begin our day with prayer by Monsignor Kowicki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let us bow our heads and pray. O eternal God, our refuge in ages past and our strength for the present hour and our hope for future days, we come to you conscious of our own failures and faults, but with faith and fortitude, because we trust in you here in the people's house. Grant that in the adventure of building a better local community, we may be saturated with such a joyful spirit, and may we be confident that light will always triumph over darkness, right will always win over wrong, and love will be perpetually outlast hatred. To this end, keep us all devoted to the light, to the right, and to love, and grant us all protection from this intense cold. And the House says, Amen. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Monsignor.
Have a great week.
You too.
Safe travels home.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Greene County.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I move for the approval of the House Journal for the 25th day, Wednesday, February 19, 2025, and I ask for a roll call vote.
The gentleman from Greene County has moved for the approval of the House Journal for the 25th day, Wednesday, February 19, 2025, and asked for a roll call vote. Are there any additions or changes to the Journal? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. The clerk will close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 136 and the nays being 2, the gentleman's motion is approved. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be points of personal privilege, and I ask that you recognize the lady from Jackson for a point of personal privilege.
Lady from Jackson.
Good morning, everyone. Point of personal privilege, Speaker.
Proceed, lady.
Dr. Julia Hill dedicated her life to civil rights and educational equality. Inspired by her mother, a teacher, Hill developed a love of learning early on. After graduating from Lincoln High School in 1939, she earned a bachelor's degree from Lincoln University, a master's degree from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a doctorate from Nova University. Hill began teaching at Booker T. Washington Elementary in 1943 and was later moved into school administration. In 1966, she took a key role in the district's Title I program, advocating for equal educational access for students of all income levels. Elected to the school board in 1984, she served as president from 1990 to 1906. Defending educational opportunities for black children. In 1958, Hill helped found the Community Committee for Social Action. which organized a successful protest to integrate restaurants and downtown department stores. She later served as Kansas City's NAACP president from 1971 to 1980, promoting equality, equitable hearing, and voter registration. When Hill died in 1906, U.S. Senator at the time, Emanuel Cleaver II, honored her for her mentor to many. He noted that nearly all cities' black leaders he knew were in some way students of Julia Hill. Thank you, Speaker.
Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be introduction of special guests.
Introduction of special guests. Gentleman from Cass County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Introduction of a special guest.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, to my left and your right, Mr. Speaker, below the virtue sign, I would like to introduce a very special guest. The gentleman in the gold tie is a decorated combat veteran, a Navy aviator, and actually a Top Gun. This gentleman, during the Iraq War, flew through all of the bad guys' defenses on an urgent call when we had Spec Ops folks being overrun by bad guys. By himself, alone in his jet airplane, he came in and dropped ordnance on bad guys while they were being overrun. This gentleman is a true American hero, an icon. He's a man that you can always count on having your back. A small business owner, he used to own pumpkins and pines in my district, Cass County, selling to thousands of great Americans. Most recently, this gentleman was the representative from the 55th District, my mentor, my brother in Christ. I'd like to, a lot of you know him, introduce Mike Hafner. Thank you, brother.
Welcome to the House and welcome home, Representative. Further introductions. Lady from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Introduction of special guest.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. To your left and my right, under Liberty, I have here my children who have been here for a long, cold week. They have been warming the hearts and halls of the Capitol all week. And also today is Preston. Today is Preston's 11th birthday, and I would like for the House to make them feel welcome.
Welcome to the House. Further introductions of special guests. Seeing none. Gentleman from Greene County.
And very thankful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be a special recognition, and I ask that you call on the gentleman from Lincoln.
Gentleman from Lincoln County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inquire of the gentleman from Morgan.
Does the gentleman from Morgan County yield? Proceed, gentlemen.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you today?
Doing very well.
Yes. So, every week here is a special week in this building, but this week has been extremely special for you and I, right?
You and I, and as well as the representative from the Berry County, and many of us who are former members of the National FFA organization.
That's right. This week is as we've been celebrating National FFA Week. As a matter of fact, I started off Monday morning with our community breakfast at the Ag Building there in Troy. So it's been a great week. And you and I both taught ag for many, many years. If I remember right, I think you might have started teaching in 1983. Is that right?
That is correct. Actually, I was a freshman 50 years ago, and that is when I got my start in the FFA organization.
So that's pretty phenomenal. And, you know, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but it was quite an honor for me to be able to work with your daughter and to be her supervising teacher when she student taught with me there in the Troy FFA chapter. So if I've never told you that, I want to be able to say that on the floor today.
Well, and if I haven't passed on to you, we are very grateful for the direction and the guidance that you gave her as she student taught into the ag program at Troy. And our family's just blessed by your guidance and your assistance for her during that time.
That's right. You know, and I tell everybody, you know, that us in the industry of agriculture, and especially within the National FFA organization, we are really one big family, and I think your and I relationship really exemplifies that. So
it does. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes, and so, Mr. Speaker, I would like to also introduce some special guests that we have with us here to my left and your right, between the first and second column. We have a group of our state FFA officers here today to help us celebrate. So if everybody would please make them feel welcome. Thank you. And also, we have another really special guest. This doesn't happen every year, but we have our National Regional Vice President, Abby Jacobson, with us today. She's standing right there between the first and second column to my left and your right. Abby is from the Elk Grove, California FFA, and she is spending National FFA Week here engaging with Missouri FFA members. So I'm not sure where Elk Grove is, but I doubt that it's -2 there this morning. So welcome, Abby.
Welcome to the House.
And since we have these FFA members here today, the gentleman from Morgan, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we teach in our agriculture classes in FFA, because, you know, agriculture, we have this 3-circle model that we teach, and in those 3 circles, they all overlap. And one of those circles is classroom instruction. Another one is their SAE, which is what most people refer to as their project, so each FFA member is supposed to have a project outside of FFA that they keep records on and get some hands-on training. And then the third aspect is FFA, the leadership part, the FFA part. And as an Ag 1 student, which is typically a 9th grade class taught in the freshman year, every freshman member of the FFA in every state has to recite the FFA Creed. Do you remember the FFA Creed, gentlemen?
I do, as well as you, and we actually have 18 members of our House body that were former members, and 2 former members of FFA in the Senate. And it's something that you learn when you start out in the FFA program, and I do remember that quite well.
Yeah, and I was just wondering if you thought you could share that creed with everybody here this morning, if they would listen.
I will be happy to share the creed with everyone this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I will present the FFA Creed, which was written by E.M. Tiffany and adopted at the 3rd National Convention of the FFA and revised at the 38th and the 63rd Conventions. The FFA Creed. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by the present and past generations of agriculturalists in the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years. I believe that to live and work on a good farm, or to be engaged on other agricultural pursuits, is pleasant as well as challenging, for I know the joys and discomforts of agricultural life and hold an inborn fondness for those associations which, even in the hours of discouragement, I cannot deny. I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. I believe in my own ability to work efficiently and think clearly with such knowledge and skill as I can secure, and in the ability of the progressive agriculturalist to serve our own and the public's interest in the producing and marketing the product of our toil. I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining, in the life abundant and enough honest wealth to help make it so for others as well as myself, in less need for charity, but more of it when needed, in being happy myself and playing square with those whose happiness depends upon me. I believe that American agriculture can and will hold true to the best traditions of our national life, and that I can exert an influence in my home and community which will stand solid for my part in that inspiring task. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Maybe we can get you to deliver that at the State FFA convention. That sounds like a state-winning creed speech to me, right there.
I appreciate it. I thank you for the inquiry.
Yes, sir. I would also just like to make one other introduction to the right of our speaker. Get my left and right mixed up sometimes. Sorry about that. But we do have with us today our state FFA president, who I have a great history with as well, with her mother and her father and her grandparents who are here with us today as well. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would also like everybody to welcome Andy Belt, Missouri State FFA president.
It is my great pleasure to welcome Andy Belt to our dais. Andy Belt is currently a student at the University of Missouri in Columbia studying agricultural education, teacher certification. She was born and raised in Shelby County in northeast Missouri, where she graduated from North Shelby High School. While in high school, Andy was on 3 national winning teams as well as 1 second-place team, with the latest team being agricultural mechanics. Andy grew up on a small sheep production farm with her 4 little brothers and her parents, Travis and Jesse Belt. There, her family raised purebred Southdown sheep, which they show competitively and sell to other consumers and producers. While at Mizzou, Andy has been involved in Collegiate Farm Bureau, Ag Ed Society, Block and Bridle, as well as Sigma Alpha. Would you all please help me in welcoming Andy Belt to our dais?
Good morning, Speaker Patterson and the House of Representatives. On behalf of the entire Missouri FFA Association, I want to thank you all for this extraordinary opportunity to be here today. I want to take the time to commend each of you for not only recognizing, but valuing the importance of agricultural education and the Missouri FFA Association. It is the goal of our entire state officer team to effectively convey the passion, voice, and needs of our over 27,000 members of our state association. Our Missouri FFA State Association was chartered in 1929, just a year after the National Future Farmers of America was established right here in our home state, in Kansas City, Missouri. What started as a simple gathering between 33 passionate individuals has led to the largest student-led organization within our country, the National FFA. Here we stand today, nearly a century later, with over 1 million members nationwide. This year, like every year, our state officer team chose a theme or key message we wanted to use and promote throughout our year of service. This year, our team chose the theme Dance with Opportunity, with hopes of encouraging Missouri FFA members to live in the moment and take every opportunity they can throughout their time in the Blue Jacket and beyond. Avery Sayre is an FFA member at Milan High School in North Central Missouri, who is truly making every opportunity count her senior year. One of Avery's biggest goals for her chapter was to reestablish an Ag Education on the Move program. This program is a unique opportunity for high school students to head into elementary classrooms to promote educate, and get younger students excited about agriculture through 10 foundational weekly lessons. Last year, in the state of Missouri alone, more than 12,400 elementary students had the chance to participate in these hands-on agriculture lessons through the Ag Moves program. Avery, as well as her officer teammates, love every chance they get to head into the elementary classroom to get students excited about agriculture and see their faces light up when they learn something new. Without a doubt, Avery is using her talents and passion to better her community, like so many other Missouri FFA members across the state. Milan FFA, Avery's home chapter, has truly jumped in headfirst this year with the help of a Missouri FFA Foundation grant. After earning $50,000 from Missouri FFA Foundation, their chapter was able to give 8 students the opportunity of a lifetime. That grant money was put towards purchasing a skid steer for their chapter, and their advisor, Avery's dad, Mr. Sayre, helped to train and certify 8 high school students to be full-time skid steer operants. Northern Missouri isn't the only place you'll find FFA members dancing with their opportunities. In the southwest corner of the state, the Republic FFA chapter is giving their students an opportunity like no other. With the help of generous community members and chapter funds, their students have the chance to help take care of livestock right there at their school and participate on a chapter show team. Their program consists of beef, swine, and sheep in order to give their students the chance to become comfortable with multiple kinds of livestock. Students are responsible for meeting daily needs, breaking the animals to show, and presenting them throughout the show season. Last year, the Republic show team traveled to a different show in the area nearly every weekend competing. And this year, their goal is to take their animals and show team to our Missouri State Fair. Ashlyn Jensen is a sophomore at Republic High School who has been a part of the livestock program and show team for the past 2 years. Her role this year is to help incoming members and students get excited about working with livestock, help them have fun while competing, and make the most out of such a unique opportunity. Agriculture is truly the heart of Missouri, and the opportunities within this great industry are endless. Avery and Ashlyn are just 2 stories that are examples of how Missouri FFA and its over 27,000 members are living in the moment and leaving an impact. There are countless FFA members in each of your home districts who are taking advantage of their opportunities. Opportunity dances with those who are already on the dance floor. And our Missouri FFA members are truly getting themselves out on the dance floor by being willing to take an opportunity. We want to thank each of you for your support in building communities, growing leaders, and strengthening agriculture across our great state. With your ongoing support of both agricultural education and the Missouri FFA Association, we can continue to empower the next generation of leaders with the skills and passion they need to make a real difference in our world. Thank you.
Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be first reading of House bills and House joint resolutions.
The clerk will read the House bills and joint resolutions.
House Bill number 1392, introduced by Dean, an act relating to the General Assembly. House Bill number 1393, introduced by Hurlburt, an act relating to release time courses. And House Bill number 1394, introduced by Hurlburt, an act relating to the Heart of America Bridge.
Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be reports from committee.
The clerk will read the reports from committee.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Fiscal Review, to which was referred House Bill 68, begs leave to report has examined the same and recommends that it do pass. And Mr. Speaker, Your Committee on Fiscal Review, to which was referred House Committee Substitute Number 2, House Bill 495, begs leave to report, has examined the same, and recommends that it do pass.
Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be House bills for third reading, and I ask that you recognize the gentleman from Newton for a motion on House Bill 742.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Newton County. For what purpose does the gentleman rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 742 be third read and passed.
The gentleman from Newton County has moved for the third reading and passage of House Bill 742. Gentleman from Newton County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the bill that we debated for several hours earlier this week to eliminate DEI programs and initiatives from our Missouri State Departments. Aside from the executive order that has been signed and implemented by the Trump administration, which prohibits DEI in the federal government agencies and departments, just since we debated this bill on Monday, Governor Kehoe has signed an executive order as well that basically accomplishes what this bill proposes. Although the governor has said that we should get this bill passed and put this into statute as well. That way it can't be undone by executive order by the next governor. So the evidence is clear. We've debated this for a while, that DEI initiatives have not worked, nor have they reached the goal that they initially claimed to accomplish. And we have no proof whatsoever that these programs have worked, but we do know that they can make things worse. DEI, unfortunately, has left a wake of further discrimination, more contentious and divisive workplaces and environments, and even violated the First Amendment rights of Missourians in some cases. So we as a state should not be allowing this dangerous propaganda that allows preferential and unfair treatment of our state workers. We should not be using our hard-earned tax dollars to spread divisive ideology, which is many times the case with these initiatives. DEI is really become, it's just an experimental paradigm that was designed initially by activists, creating this oppressor versus oppressed mentality, Mr. Speaker, to further divide us. And we should, I believe, wholeheartedly reject that. Not to mention, DEI conveniently leaves out any programming for combating anti-Semitism. And so I think we should encourage a work environment that's based upon merit and competency and protect the civil rights of Missourians moving forward. No more pressure and even subsidized by our taxpayer dollars to comply with the propaganda or being shamed for disagreeing with the woke ideology. I think Missouri should lead on prioritizing our freedom of speech and diversity of thought. We believe in the American dream, Mr. Speaker, for everyone, regardless of race, sex, or what background people come from. And I believe anyone can experience that American dream with enough effort and motivation, hard work, and grit. This is what has made us great this far as a state and as a nation. And I think what will continue to make America great again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Discussion. Lady from St. Louis County, District 73.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak with the bill handler, please.
Does the bill handler yield?
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Hey
Hi, lady.
there, you're my fave. I'm gonna stall you out this morning, but you mentioned some things that I was going to mention about dividing us. I'm not upset with you for this bill. Let's start there.
Thank you.
I am disappointed.
I'm sorry you feel
disappointed.
that way.
I'm disappointed at the fact that the wealthiest amongst us in this country was able to convince an entire political party of people that, you know, the coloreds, the queers, the broads, and the cripples are the ones taking your opportunities. And if it wasn't for us being in your way, that you could get what they have. and we fall for it, and we've fallen for it every time. We've been falling for it ever since there was such thing as a government. And instead of you holding the oligarchs accountable for the crumbs that they sprinkle down on the rest of us, they have you punching to the side of you at the other people who know what it's like to have high eggs. These people hear us talking about how expensive eggs are. They don't feel it. They hear us talking about how high gas prices are, but they haven't driven themselves in years. And instead of us holding them accountable, we're blaming everybody else. So I'm not upset with you. I think you're smarter than this. I think people of your party are smarter than this. But I'm just here to let you know that no matter what we do to marginalize each other instead of, fighting the people who are really oppressing us, you've allowed them to convince you to divide us even further, and it works every time. So while we're focusing on us and the crumbs that we're getting instead of holding them accountable, they're continuing to get rich. They're continuing to increase this wage gap. We are going to be the ones who continue to struggle to buy eggs and gas and have our children to have child care and a good education. It's not about race, gender, or sexuality. It's a matter of rich versus poor. When you talk about taxation and theft, I'm going to agree with you. The problem with that is that we're giving it to the people who are laughing at us for fighting over crumbs. So I'm not mad at you, gentlemen. I'm disappointed that we're still fighting over nothing. Love you to bits and pieces. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from St. Louis County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Thank you. I was just in the hallway over here speaking with the governor, and the first thing that I said to him was I was disappointed in what he has recently done regarding DEI. Pretty unnecessary. And it seems like these days we blame everything on DEI. The train derailment in East Palestine, that was blamed on DEI. The Boeing passenger jet failure, where a door panel came off, that was DEI. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Maryland, that was blamed on DEI. The Los Angeles wildfires, that was blamed on DEI. The most recent air collision close to D.C., the President of the United States automatically blamed it on DEI. And all of us waited to see what color of the skin was of the pilots. The gentleman presenting this said that he wants it to be based on merit and competency. Does anyone really believe that President Trump has hired his cabinet and directors of agencies based on merit? Not a chance. It's first based on loyalty. How many nice things you can say about the president. And so I like consistency, Mr. Speaker. I don't think this is consistent, so I'm going to be voting against it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion. Lady from Jackson County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak against the bill.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. I am disappointed, as the previous representative mentioned, but I am upset that the bill has come across again. I agree with something that the bill sponsor said last week, in that he said that we were all created equal. But I have to add to that, we have not all been treated equally. And that was the impetus for initiatives like DEI and affirmative action. These actions were implemented in the 50s and the 60s, primarily because employers were discriminating either overtly or covertly against employees that weren't like them. In like manner, this state and this country has treated indigenous people, immigrants, black and brown people, white women, veterans, the poor, the LGBTQ community, the lame, the blind, and other disabled individuals like second class, like inferior, like subhuman. In fact, from 1619 to 1865, my African ancestors were considered property and treated as such. Yet when it was time to determine a state's total population for legislative representation and taxation, they were counted as 3/5 of a person, which gave political advantage to the southern slaveholding states, by the way. And they couldn't even participate in the legislative process. Proponents of this bill say that DEI leads to reverse discrimination and that hiring practices are based on demographics rather than on merit. Now, that logic assumes that a person hired under DEI measures isn't as qualified as perhaps white males, or that they are less than or inferior. Case in point, it has been reported recently that our Attorney General is suing Starbucks because of their DEI hiring practices and has stated that Starbucks' workforce has become more female and less white. My question, Mr. Speaker, just how white, just how male does Starbucks need to be? DEI and affirmative action have reshaped the way businesses operate. And many organizations, it's on record, there is statistics, there is data. Many organizations have seen diversity, equity, and inclusion not only as a moral imperative, but as a key driver to business success. It is on record. The goal has always been about fairness, about opportunity, about serving all of the people well. Jesus didn't discriminate, but he promoted the virtues that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion is all about. This bill won't do that. Be not deceived. It will not do that. It will do exact opposite of what has been purported here today. Please vote down this bill. Too many people have died for things like DEI and an affirmative action and EEO, have been to jail for it. Vote down this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, lady from Jackson County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speak on the bill.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm not going to go into all of this diversity, equity, inclusion discussion and waste more taxpayer money on this, because that's what y'all are doing. Let's talk about that right now. The Trump administration and Elon Musk are attacking organizations right now. Here in Kansas City, we are losing. People are getting laid off. And there's not jobs for them after that. What are we going to do about that? What are you going to do about the funding that has been cut on organizations that are feeding our communities and the communities that are of lower income? What are we going to do about that? But instead, we are standing here again for another session talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion because y'all are afraid. And instead of actually working for the people of Missouri, you want to use fear tactics into issues like this when we should be helping the people of Missouri. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, lady from St. Louis City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak on the bill.
Proceed, lady.
Mr. Speaker, we have this conversation and have had this conversation so many times. The executive order that came down will limit us the opportunities to foster and assist in young women, young men, non-conforming, gender binary people from being able to have access to resources. It will affect how the departments actually reach constituencies here in Missouri. We hear all the time, I don't want to be a part of the process. The process doesn't work for me. I don't see myself within the state. I don't see myself in the funding. I don't see myself being reached out to or reached back to come pull up forward. We hear this, and now we're making it very, very clear that that is indeed the intention. It's not to help you move forward. Why would we do that? Why would we help you when we are afraid of mediocrity? Mediocrity is no longer a part of the conversation. You have to be who you are based on your merit, correct? Is that not the argument? But because somebody decided that my body and somebody else's body was less than of someone else's because they were white and male, Mr. Speaker, I understand that it's always scary to see change, and change is moving so fast. It's the same reason why a lot of people fought against the technology and thought technology was going to take over their homes when we no longer had rotary phones. This does not hurt you. This does not hurt your opportunity to still be a part of the workforce for all of the men who are out there. This does not make you less than. If anything, this encourages you to be better and do better. And I hope that we actually do so. Mr. Speaker, I will be voting no against this bill. Thank you.
Further discussion, gentleman from Jackson County.
St. Louis County. To speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I didn't get a chance to speak during the perfection process, and maybe that was my fault for waiting too long to raise my hand, but I want to take this 5 minutes to take members back to this time roughly last year. Do y'all remember when we had Jersey Day on the floor? We were celebrating baseball starting up again, and then we had to debate the anti-DEI bill. Kind of puts a sour mood on the whole thing, doesn't it? And then I gave my speech and talked about my personal experiences of why DEI programs are important in real time to people that look like me, to people that look like the speaker, to people that look like other folks in this room. Now, I'm not going to get into that story because it's too heartbreaking to even say, to even think about. And here we are doing this again. Mr. Speaker, there was something else going on pretty big last year, too. Do you remember what that was? Kansas City was moving mountains to make sure that they were considered a host city for the FIFA World Cup. And this bill was tabled. And I bet that responsibility to be a host city had a lot to do with it. And now that we've earned that designation as a host city for the 2026 World Cup, we turn right back around the following year and smack the respective face of the world community by passing bills like this. It ain't right. And look, I have a lot of respect for the gentleman that sponsors this bill. Lord knows we all have our stories. But this is not the way to do it. Not to mention this during Black History Month, not to mention that the governor already put an executive order out, so now we're just going to rub our faces in it. Mr. Speaker, that bill that we passed a couple of years ago was a bill that you carried to make sure that we could be a host city by removing sales tax from ticket sales so we could be in contention to be a host city. You know that legislation like this doesn't help us in the future. I wish we could do the same thing that we did last year and table this bill. Please vote no.
Further discussion? Gentleman from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
I might be the last person speaking on this bill. I don't know that, but I just want you to know that, Mr. Speaker, from my point of view and from the folks that I represent, the majority of the people that I represent in House District 50, this bill is a moral failing. We are all worse when we fail to invest in programs that support inclusion and excellence, and that preserve the dignity of every person. My profession believes that, and I will continue to do that in my profession and in my work. So let's be clear about what a yes vote is for. Not only is it for this bill, but it is also a bill in defense of homogeneity, inequity, and exclusion. And when we need to be more inclusive in our lives and bring people into the body politic and know who our neighbors are and support each other, this bill does the exact opposite. Thank you.
Further discussion. Gentleman from St. Louis County, District 83.
Speak on the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I've thought a lot about the institution that we occupy, and I thought a lot about the word freedom. I have a lot of respect for our friends across the aisle and the offices that they currently occupy. But when I think about freedom, Mr. Speaker, I don't think about this bill, even though our friends across the aisle have wrapped this bill around the word freedom. Can I get some order in the chamber, Mr. Speaker?
Would all in the chamber please direct their attention to the gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When our friends across the aisle push bills like this, they wrap it up in protecting freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought. What kind of freedom is banning the government from teaching its workers about inclusiveness and diversity and equity? What kind of freedom bans someone or bans a contractor from teaching their workers about diversity, equity, and inclusion if they want to contract with the state? Mr. Speaker, that's not freedom. That's government overreach. And to the clerk and his staff, I apologize in advance, because when it comes to voting against banning diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm going to press the no button on my box so hard I might break it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion. Lady from Boone County.
To comment.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. I believe that Missouri is a more inclusive state than it was 30 years ago. And when I use that word inclusive, I think it means that there are people prior to that who maybe didn't feel like they belonged in Missouri. But we've had a lot of changes over the years that has made them feel more inclusive, which is important. As I see my colleagues beg us not to pass this bill, I know what's about to happen. I know it's about to be a party line vote. I believe time will show this was a mistake. We're living history right now, and we're going to choose today to go backwards. And down the road, when our state realizes that was a mistake, we will be starting over. And all the progress that we will have made, we will have to start over. I will be voting no on this. And I appreciate the fact that my no vote will go down in history. And I will be able to tell people that when this day happened, I voted no. So those of us who may not get our way today on this vote, we are bearing witness to history. And I encourage the rest of you in this body to join me in a vote of no. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the gentleman from Newton County is recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A lot of comments here that were not exactly objective regarding the bill, but I'll just point this out. Every single comment from the other side of the aisle is based upon the premise that these programs work. They don't work. In fact, they cause things to be worse when it comes to discrimination. And I'll point out one example of that. Despite colleges, which all of them have, most of them have had DEI programs and a lot of money spent on that. Over the last 10 years, a 300% increase in reported anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses. If these programs were working, you wouldn't see a rise in that kind of division in our college campuses. It's a good bill, Mr. Speaker. I think this is freedom, and I think it is fair, and I think we should vote yes. Thank you.
The gentleman from Newton County has renewed his motion for the third reading and passage of House Bill 742. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. Has everyone voted? The clerk will close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 108 and the nays being 50, you have third read and passed House Bill 742. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Staying on that same order of business, I ask that you recognize the gentleman from St. Louis County for a motion on House Committee Substitute Number 2 for House Bill 495.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from St. Louis County. For what purpose does the gentleman rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Committee Sub Number 2 for House Bill 495 be third read and passed.
The gentleman from St. Louis County has moved for the third reading and passage of House Committee Substitute Number 2 for House Bill 495. Gentleman from St. Louis County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, everybody in the body, for listening, the support, and even the opposition. I understand some feel this is a controversial bill. To me, it's not. It is time. It is time after years of abuse that we back the blue. It is time after years of fear for their safety that we protect our citizens in this great state. And it is time to embrace and support a safer Missouri. I humbly ask the body to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Discussion on House Bill 495. Gentleman from St. Louis.
To speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We heard this bill in Crime Prevention and Ledge Review. In Ledge Review, we received 23 pages that consisted of 17 amendments, many of which had not been vetted, a mockery of the process. We had 5 minutes to review the amendments and vote on them. This is not how this procedure is supposed to work. Mr. Speaker, this bill is a direct contradiction of what the will of the people wanted. In 2012, the state of Missouri voted to relinquish state control back to the city of St. Louis. We have had we have had local control since 2017, and crime is trending down. Chief Tracy is doing an amazing job, and FBI statistics and other crime stats can attest to that. We need more time. I ask the people in this body to vote no. Thank you.
Further discussion. Gentleman from St. Louis County, District 83.
To inquire of the bill handler, Mr. Speaker.
Does the gentleman from St. Louis yield?
I do, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning. Good. How are you?
Good. This will be quick. I only got 5 minutes. Do you support the U.S. Army?
I do.
Thank you. To speak on the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, gentlemen.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I think we should have a little history lesson. The origin of the St. Louis police takeover dates all the way back to the Civil War. And I thank the bill handler for supporting the U.S. Army because the takeover of St. Louis police was done by former Missouri Governor Jackson, who wanted the state of Missouri to secede from the Union and join the Confederacy. Mr. Speaker, we're patriots here. I believe that this is a local control issue. And if I may, Mr. Speaker, may I inquire of the bill handler one more time?
Does the gentleman from St. Louis yield again?
Sure, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Are you aware of the 2016 legislative session, Senate Bill 656?
No.
Okay. I was in Governor Jay Nixon's office, and at the time the governor vetoed the bill. This body overrode the veto. But the bill, in short, was a rollback of the restrictions of Missouri's gun laws. You know, this side of the chamber voted against it, but your side didn't. What do you think are the consequences of that veto override?
I don't know the details of that bill, but this bill has nothing to do with gun laws, so I'm not sure where you're going with it.
All right. Follow with me. To speak on the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Since that bill, Mr. Speaker, or since the bill override, Mr. Speaker, gun violence has spiked not just in St. Louis, but across the entire state of Missouri. I think it's pretty ironic that one side of the chamber flooded our streets, flooded the streets of Missouri, flooded the streets of St. Louis with guns, and now they want to talk about public safety, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from St. Louis County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To comment on the bill, please.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. I want to start out by saying that I do think there are some good things in this bill that are worth discussing, such as fentanyl use near a child, stunt driving in the city, organized retail theft, etc. I do believe that any crime is too much crime, and we need to find ways to reduce it in a way that makes sense. However, I cannot support the state takeover of the St. Louis Police Department. This is an enormous shift of power. The people of the city have voted for their mayor. To usurp her power and place it in the hands of a governor who the majority of the people in the city of St. Louis did not vote for is an inappropriate power grab. I sit on the Crime and Public Safety Committee, and I was willing to listen to how this shift in power would help really make St. Louis safer and reduce crime, and I heard nothing. I inquired of the bill's sponsor and was told, well, this isn't a crime bill. Now, that was before all this other stuff was added that we've talked about that wasn't put through the Crime and Public Safety Committee. I also asked about any specific plans that this newly appointed board had or were going to have that was going to reduce crime, and I got no answer. I also heard multiple representatives admit that they were ignoring the statistics for their feelings, none of whom live in the city of St. Louis. And for the record, I don't live there either, but I do work there and have for most of my career. So I am hesitant to say that making such a broad power change, which is brought forward and supported by not a single citizen in the city of St. Louis, is a good plan for us moving forward. Further, like I said before, nobody who has supported this bill has actually lives there. And I do want to point out that the bill's sponsor the other day, when he was speaking about this bill, noted that crime has decimated his own district, the 96th district, but I do not see him bringing forth any legislation about a state takeover of the Crestwood Police Department if crime in his district is really so bad. So I just want to point out that I do believe, I want to go on record, that a lot of the issues in this bill I support and would like to see on their own so that we could actually discuss stunt driving, organized retail theft, et cetera. But I absolutely do not support the state takeover of the city of St. Louis. Crime has been reduced, and I am going to be a no on this bill. Thank you.
Further discussion, gentleman from St. Louis City.
To speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
So I've been waiting to be able to have an opportunity to speak on this bill for quite some time. I've watched it through committee. When we're perfecting the bill, you know, I stood at this mic ready to speak on this bill. And I just want to start by saying power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And just because you all can do something doesn't mean that you should. This bill is nothing more. I know people have labeled it the police takeover bill. Some people have labeled it, you know, the Board of Commissioners bill. But I would just say that this bill is simply a bill about taking the voice away from the citizens. It's not about crime. It's not about crime strategies. I think I heard that during committee that this isn't about crime strategies. It isn't about preventing crime. And it made me wonder, what would that Board of Commissioners do for St. Louis that it hasn't done for Kansas City? And what would they do differently? And I rebuke the notion that any member in this chamber can tell me best how crime should be solved in a city that I lay my head in every single night that I'm not in this chamber. You know, I walk my dog in that city. I take out the trash. And the absolute best part of my day, Mr. Speaker, is when I get to walk my daughter to school every day. Her on my shoulders, walking to school. And members in this chamber will have you believe that I live in, and I'm the representative of Gotham City. I'm the representative from the city of St. Louis, one of them. And when I look at the fact that early voting has already started, the people of St. Louis are voting for their mayor right now that can dictate who the police commissioner is. And, you know, if we aren't, we're not fans of how it's being done, they could change that person right now. They can go to the ballot box and do that. And I reject the notion that the governor, who the city of St. Louis, I believe less than 20% voted for, can pick best who, you know, the crime strategies that'll work best in our city. I just reject that notion. So if we want to talk about reducing crime, we can talk about it. If you want to talk about getting the illegal drugs and the ghost guns off the streets of St. Louis, we can talk about it. If you want to talk about stopping all the violent drivers who are just killing people on a daily basis or weekly basis in the city of St. Louis, we can talk about that. But this bill isn't about that. This is about silencing the voices of the people in the city of St. Louis. The provisions that really distress me when I look at the fact that there have been comments said that, well, you know, just don't break the law, you know, when we look at the rioting provisions. And in 2017, there was $1 million lawsuit in the city of St. Louis against the Metropolitan Police Department for the tactic of kettling. So if I'm just a random person on the street, I'm trying to exercise my right, I'm not breaking any laws, but then the police decide to group me in and 6 or more gather, and now I'm charged with an increased penalty. What is that saying? We shouldn't be silencing those voices. And there were even people who were out in, I believe in 2020, when they were protesting in the streets about keeping dentist offices open and doing elective surgeries during a global pandemic. We didn't have any issues with that. So, you know, it just makes me wonder, you know, when you say don't break the law, right? Not all laws are moral. When I couldn't have the opportunity to sit in the front of a bus, that was a law, right? When we look at the fact that I would imagine there must be in the basement somewhere some signs that say white-only water fountains. That was probably a law. So I just don't think that's right. And widening the definition of what rioting is not okay. When I say riot, I'm thinking of burning down a gas station. What this bill is talking about rioting is simply just 6 or more people gather and they break a law. Let's say we decide to walk through the middle of the street and not walk at a crosswalk. Is that rioting? I don't think so. And lastly, I'll say when it comes to unlawful traffic interference, Right now, that is the number one form when I look at protests of getting our words out there, of expression, of being able to say, this is something we don't believe in and you all need to hear us on this. The sooner you learn why you're sitting in traffic, the sooner you won't be sitting in traffic. And with that, I would like to urge this body to vote no against this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion. Gentleman from St. Louis City, District 81.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak on this bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
I appreciate the discussion, and when you have a bit of a squabble amongst your own family members, siblings, those of us that live in the city can have that. I'm going to echo the sentiments of the gentleman from the St. Louis Reed District when he said it feels like we get picked on in the city, and I'm going to echo those sentiments. We do indeed feel that way far too often. This is a fight, though, that's been going on for quite a while, so quickly, not to bore anyone with the statistics, but I'm going to go super quick with this thing because this is not about crime statistics. The city of St. Louis, of which I've lived in my entire life, has a 50-year murder average of 176 murders per year, 50-year average. The last 15-year average, 172. Kansas City's 134, Mr. Speaker. In the previous 5 years, City of St. Louis, 193. Kansas City, 166. None of those statistics mean anything. We have the one statistic that matters, and that is we have people leaving the city, and when you go to any town hall, you will speak, and I believe my colleagues from the city and the close-in St. Louis suburbs will say crime is always at the top of one of those issues. We need champions for the city of St. Louis, Mr. Speaker, not critics. I get sick and tired when I hear people say, hey, I used to live in the city of St. Louis. I used to work in the city of St. Louis, but now we're afraid to go to a ball game. We need to stop that type of conversation. We need champions, not critics. Don't be afraid. Come into the city. Bring your friends. Come to the games. Go to the zoo. Promote the welfare of that city. It's key to this state. I really want us to remember what the lady from St. Louis Dahl District said. Listen to the cops. They consistently ask for better gun regulations and more help with mental health. The most easiest example, and it's a brutal example, if we would have had a red flag law, possibly the visual and performing arts school shooting would not have happened because that young man's own family called the police, gave the weapon to the police, who had to return it. It was unbelievable, and that was the very weapon that killed a kid in that school and a teacher. A simple red flag law to help family members with mental illness. If the governor is listening, or anybody, you, Mr. Speaker, we're 5% of this state's population. I believe strongly we're entitled to at least 5% of the Highway Patrol's efforts to patrol the interstates. I've written letters, I've asked. If you go on Highway 70 from downtown heading to the airport, I challenge anyone to find a more lawless stretch of interstate in this country. We are entitled to at least our 5% of the Highway Patrol. Last but not least, I do want to be the voice for the police when I make this last statement. We have heard from the police, both the POA and the Ethical Society of Police. The Ethical Society of Police, ESOP, was founded in 1972 by African American police officers to address race-based discrimination. We work to cultivate and maintain police community relations, increase diversity within police departments, and enhance accountability and professionalism in law enforcement. The number one, their voice, I don't hear it enough. Sergeant Donnie Walters, a resident of the city of St. Louis, the president of ESOP, the Black Police Officers Association, is imploring this body to vote yes on state control. They want to go back to a board of police commissioners. At least Think about that before you push that button. Listen to the voice of ESOP in conjunction with the POA. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion. Lady from St. Louis City, District 80.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak on the bill.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. I love the city of St. Louis. Generations of my family built the infrastructure of the city. The roots of my family tree are woven deeply beneath the cobblestone streets. On my dad's branch of the family tree are 2 German stonemasons, brothers, who took a commission with the Catholic Church of France. These 2 German brothers helped build the old cathedral, which still stands on the banks of the mighty Mississippi. On my mom's branch of the tree is an Englishman by the name of Thomas Jennings Sr. My great-grandfather proudly served as an attorney in the comptroller's office in the city of St. Louis. He was a Republican that served 8 mayors and was the longest-serving city employee, serving in the city of St. Louis for 50 years before having a heart attack at his desk where he died in City Hall. I come from generations of St. Louisans who are invested in the development of the city. I am the proud granddaughter of immigrants. My family, like many of the white folks in this chamber, are descendants of immigrants. And some of us in this chamber that aren't the descendants of immigrants, perhaps are the descendants of slaves. Because Missouri's never been a free state. And when admitted into the Union in 1820, we entered the Union as a slave state. And one of the first laws enacted by this body, written, was to outlaw free blacks. The city of St. Louis is home to so many different identities, the majority of our residents being black and brown Americans. When I hear members say that the state takeover of our police department isn't political or is nonpartisan, I disagree. In this legislation, the governor is to appoint the oversight board. The people in the city of St. Louis did not elect this governor. We voted 72% for Crystal Quaid. So to say that this is nonpartisan, this board is nonpartisan, isn't true. When it is a gubernatorial appointment and we didn't elect that governor. This is taxation without representation. This is big government. This is a white power grab to assert power over communities that, quite frankly, this body has always been trying to control. And for that, I encourage the members of this chamber to respect the citizens that I represent and vote no on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion. Lady from St. Louis City, District 77.
Thank you. To speak to the bill.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. So I am definitely against this bill. The bill sponsor, again, let me reiterate, he came to committee, and I want to uplift this. He stated that the city of St. Louis, his words verbatim, is not doing anything, or the current administration is not doing anything to enhance public safety. And while yet they say that this has nothing to do with public safety, it absolutely does. When we roll out the budget, the city of St. Louis's public safety budget, and the police get nearly 50% of that budget. And also, again, included in that budget is the fire pension, the neighborhood stabilization. Also, you have police retirement, and also you have COB, which gets 0, building division, fire. You have a lot of entities within that get a piece of that pie. The efforts that this current administration has made to enhance public safety and reduce crime in the city of St. Louis, I would say that she has given an effort to do that. And when people say that they don't see it, who live outside of the city of St. Louis, and that the current administration has given no effort to do that, is a blatant lie. We in the city of St. Louis see public safety different than others outside of the city of St. Louis. That's why we uplift what reimagining public safety looks like to us who live in the city of St. Louis and pay taxes. Public safety to us looks like revitalizing some of the vacant buildings in our neighborhoods. Public safety to us looks like community policing. Public safety to us looks like residents being a part of the decision-making process and having their input being taken into consideration. Public safety to us looks like good education. Public safety to us looks like health care for all. Public safety to us looks differently than what individuals who live outside of the city of St. Louis say. Kansas City has not matched the success of the city of St. Louis in reducing crime, and Kansas City is under state control. The city of St. Louis has reduced the number of homicides. When this current administration took place, we clocked in at about 263 homicides. One is too many. I say that, my colleagues say that, the current administration, our mayor says that. We acknowledge, yes, one is too many. And yes, she did uplift that we need good red flag laws. She did mention that guns are easily accessible by individuals who should not have guns. We had 150 homicides last year. Again, one is too many, but it is a lie to say that we're not reducing crime in the city of St. Louis under the current efforts to uplift crime prevention initiatives, to uplift good programming through our violence intervention office. I'm going to talk about, let's see. So set aside from state control, I did have issues with section 574.050, and if I could speak to the bill sponsor.
Does the gentleman from St. Louis County yield?
I do, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, gentleman.
I'm not a gentleman, I'm a lady.
Proceed, lady.
Thank you. How much time do I have?
You have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I only have a couple, 1 minute and 50 seconds, whatever, however long I got. The conspiracy requirement, can you tell me in one sentence what this section does?
Are you talking about the rioting conspiracy requirement?
Yes. Just one sentence. Don't give me two, just one.
I'll handle my inquiry how I want to handle my inquiry.
It's not yours, it's mine. So I'm going to move on. Mr. Speaker, let me speak to the section 5740.50. The requirement for a conspiracy is removed in this section, and now a person commits rioting if knowingly assembled with 6 or more individuals and violates any criminal law of Missouri. The first offense is upgraded to a Class D felony. The second or subsequent offense further elevated to a Class C felony. Additional circumstances, if during the riot bodily injury or property damage exceeds $5,000 occurs, the offense escalates to a Class B felony. If a law enforcement officer, firefighter, or a public safety official sustains bodily harm during the riot, the offense is a Class A felony. And these were notes that I took. The implications of this is the legal threshold. The removal of the conspiracy requirement lowers the threshold for what constitutes rioting. Participation in assembly where any criminal act occurs can now lead to rioting charges, even without prior engagement to commit unlawful acts. The enhanced penalties, the reclassification of rioting from a misdemeanor to varying felonies, level reflect a legislative intent to improper stricter consequences and potentially leading to longer incarceration. I am against this bill for a myriad of reasons, state control being one of them, but also removing the conspiracy requirement is a violation of our constitutional rights. It's a violation of the constitutional amendment. The First Amendment gives us the freedom to speech, petition the government, the governance, and also assembly. So I ask the body to vote this down. Thank you.
Further discussion. Lady from St. Louis City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To inquire of the lady from St. Louis City.
Does the lady from St. Louis City yield?
Yes.
Proceed.
Hi, lady. I know that you have pages upon pages of notes.
I do.
And I took a lot of time on perfection, so I want to give you the opportunity to go through all of your pages because we only get 5 minutes to really have this conversation on third read.
Thank you. There were some other points in this bill, so let's go to section 211.141. Because I don't have a lot of committees, I can just sit in my office and read some of these amendments that have been slapped on during a legislative review. And so this section has a significant change in how juvenile detention decisions are made. And under this amendment change, I believe that juvenile officers are required to utilize a cumulative point system when conducting risk and needs assessments for children involved in an alleged offense. This total point reflects all alleged offenses committed by the child and will guide the court's determination on whether to order detention as outlined in Section 211.151. The key aspects that I wrote down after reviewing this section is that instead of evaluating each alleged offense in isolation, juvenile officers will aggregate points from all alleged offenses. And this holistic approach aims to provide a comprehensive view of the child's behavior and associated risks.
I'm sorry, lady, I don't mean to cut you off. Mr. Speaker, can we get a little bit of order, please? Thank you. Go ahead, lady.
Thank you. The problem that I have is that the current scoring system adds points for previous offenses. So I'm not too strung out on that section. Going back to, and I'm not too strung out on the conspiracy requirement removal, again, because it's a violation of our constitutional rights. Going back to state control, since I'm allotted more time and I have 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Again, taxation without representation.
I appreciate
the
that.
bill sponsored. Well, let me address this. The Ethical Society of Police, which I don't even think that they did a poll of every black officer.
No, they did not.
Okay. So, and I know some officers who are not in favor of state control, particularly black officers.
Same.
Okay.
Who are a part of the Ethical Society of Police Officers.
I know some white officers who are not in, in support of state control.
Yeah.
The bill sponsor talks about how he came to the city of St. Louis. I remember last year when I asked one of the gentlemen on the other side of the aisle, can you name 6 streets north of Natural Bridge? He could not name them. And I'm pretty sure the bill sponsor still cannot name 6 streets.
He might do it in his closing now that you
north
said
of Natural
about
Bridge.
It.
He probably Googling it. I wouldn't be surprised if he was Googling 6 streets in North City, St. Louis, north of Natural Bridge.
That's not main streets. Like
right,
Marietta.
not corridors.
You know
it's
what
easy
I mean?
to look up some corridors. But he can't name side streets.
But lady, I appreciate you being able to have your time and make the discussion about those things. But because we are short on time, I'm going to see if I can inquire of some fellow other colleagues.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, may I please inquire of the gentleman from St. Louis City, 84th?
Does the gentleman from St. Louis City yield?
I do.
Proceed.
Go ahead, gentlemen. I don't know how much time we got left.
But I would just reiterate the point that I made yesterday. St. Louis City, or the other day, that St. Louis City is a city of a very long and rich history. And you would want someone that is directing our police force that really has an experience with our city's rich history. The citizens of St. Louis are electing a mayor right now, a mayor born and raised in St. Louis, hopefully. I don't think it's fair at all that we could allow a commissioner that's only spent 3 years in St. Louis to direct our police force. So I would ask people to vote no on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. If I can inquire the gentleman from St. Louis County, Burton District, Mr. Speaker.
Does the gentleman from St. Louis County yield?
I do.
Go ahead,
Proceed,
gentleman.
lady.
Thank you, lady. I appreciate it. This might be one of those times where we need 10 minutes. I just want to know, the gentleman was saying that the numbers were not correct the other day. And I just want to know if there is a state takeover, if he will then all of a sudden believe the numbers. I agree we do need to address crime. And I'll give the gentleman the benefit of the doubt that he cares about crime. And I looked up things to do to reduce crime. And tackle poverty is one of them, and Republicans continue to defund programs to address poverty, education, and we are one of the lowest states at funding our education system, supportive resources for those that have experiences of trauma. We don't do that well. Stable housing, we've made cuts to the Missouri Housing Trust Fund. Income rates, we're 50th in the country at funding our state employees. Access to health care. Republicans have voted to defund Medicaid expansion. gun violence. Obviously, we know where that goes in these chambers. After-school programs, Republicans have continued to defund after-school programs. I hope they change their mind this year. Improving neighborhood conditions, very little is done.
The Speaker's time has expired. Further discussion. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the previous question.
The gentleman from Greene County has moved that the question under immediate consideration be now put. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. The clerk will close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 108 and the nays being 49, you have approved the gentleman's motion. The gentleman from St. Louis County is recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my motion.
The gentleman from St. Louis County has renewed his motion for the third reading passage of House Committee Substitute number 2 for House Bill 495. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. Has everyone voted? The clerk will close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 106 and the nays being 47, the motion is approved. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Staying on that same order of business, I ask that you recognize the gentleman from Bates for a motion on House Bill 544.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Bates County. For what purpose does the gentleman rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 544 be third read and passed.
The gentleman from Bates County has moved for the third reading and passage of House Bill 544. Gentleman from Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We had some great debate on this bill a couple days ago. Truth about this bill is it maintains a process essential to the number one industry in the state, agriculture. We put emphasis on what it takes to get products out to our producers. We know that it takes industry buy-in. It takes lots of analyzation, data, and research to get those products to us. We're believers in that process. I know the people I represent, the state, we believe in that process. We want to continue to maintain feeding those around us, around the world, and we truly believe that there's not a better process out there to make sure that these products are highly analyzed, looked at, and that they can continue to develop and market those to us. So with that, I ask today for votes on this bill. If there's any questions, or I ask if there's any other. Excuse me, I'm getting tied up a little bit, but with that, that's all I have. Yeah, I'm always ready.
Discussion on the bill. Lady from St. Louis County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak on the bill?
Proceed, lady.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, look at all the people that are in the chamber today. The other day when we were having the discussion, no one was in here. I don't even feel like we had much of a debate. I'm serious. I'm like proud of you all to be here. This bill is not a good bill. This bill literally just cringes my blood. We're supposed to protect people. We're supposed to help people. Profits over people is one of the reasons I came here to fight. And basically what this bill does is give corporations all the money that they want. If anyone suffers from cancer, like me, then they won't be able to sue to make things right. So I mentioned this the other day when no one was in here, that Bear is in my district. Hello, Bear. No one's called. No one's reached out to me to discuss maybe how we can make this bill better. But having stage 4 cancer makes me want to scream at all of you. My job, what I am here to do, is to save people's lives, to reduce the chances of anyone getting cancer. And like I said on the floor, to you so-called Christian folk, if Jesus was here, would he be pushing the yes button, or would he be holding my hand and pushing the red button? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am a hell no on this bill.
Further discussion, gentleman from St. Louis County, District 72.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To briefly speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, we had a long conversation on this piece of legislation last year and the other day. And I just want to be a little bit more concise about what we're talking about. Because we talked about a corporation named Bayer, and we talked about a chemical glyphosate, and we talked about cancer-causing issues and all that sort of stuff. But Mr. Speaker, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about access to a court of law for a lawsuit. This opens up, we call it the pesticide bill. It's actually on an herbicide, but it opens a pesticide chapter of statutes, which includes herbicides, which is why we call it the pesticide bill, I guess. But nonetheless, this actually addresses everybody. You know, Johnson Wax and Procter & Gamble and anybody who makes a chemical like this. And it puts my ability, if I'm harmed through the idea of failure to warn, to access a court of law at risk. That's not a good thing. It's never a good thing. And I just want to be abundantly clear that that's what we're really talking about here. We're not talking about whether a chemical causes cancer or not. That's not our job. Our job is to legislate. We have an entire branch of government designed to handle that sort of thing, and a jury that will be sat to decide if the information is accurate or not and if the person was harmed or not. So we need to stay out of it. We need to stay out of that branch of government. It's not our job. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, gentleman from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
So HB 544 has been, we've tussled this about, and I've heard so many descriptions, and it's been described as big ag versus the little man. I've heard it described as the farmers versus everybody else. And so I went to a friend. I have a committee that I formed when I started running of a variety of ages and backgrounds of people that I go to when I want someone else's input. And so I went to my neighbor, Macy. She's a pretty incredible young lady. She's got a master's degree in agricultural education, leadership communications, and she gets to work from home. She is also a marathon runner, so she's super healthy. She just gave birth January 2nd to their second baby. She ran the Boston Marathon, and she ran the Chicago Marathon 11 weeks after giving birth to her first child. She's very healthy. She's very in tune with all the issues, and she has 2 young girls, and she's real particular about what goes into their diets, even though she also has a healthy respect for developing their own natural immune systems. So I went to her and I asked her this, and she said it's been around forever. Glyphosate's been around. I use glyphosate. They have 29 acres. Butts up to the lady with 33 acres that butts up to my 16 acres. And I spray my rocks with glyphosate. But Macy is a super good mom, and she doesn't have a problem with this. There'll be one to take its place. It's been used forever. If it's used responsibly, she said it's safe. So my district, being what it is, in Jefferson County, my district is the size of all the other 5 districts combined pretty much area-wise because I'm the most rural. And I received a lot of emails on this bill from farmers who saying, you will ruin our chance to make a good living. But I did get one email from one lady in particular who started out nice, asking me to vote against the bill, and then she became a little more irate and started going to capital letters, and at the end she was kind of belligerent, and she said, make no mistake, you will be held accountable. I asked her who I should be accountable to, her or the farmers. She responded by asking me to unsubscribe her from my Capitol report because I blew her off. Well, I didn't blow her off, and I may hang myself today, okay? I want to know which camera to look at in case she's watching. I'll just call her Babs, because Babs, today I'm not only voting for HB 544, I'm encouraging all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the previous question.
The gentleman from Greene County has moved that the question under immediate consideration be now put. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. The clerk will close the board and tie the vote. With the yeas being 103 and the nays being 56, you have approved the gentleman's motion. The gentleman from Bates has 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate going back to really what this bill does. It puts a process that we know and trust, we believe is the best in the United States. When alternative studies start going against that process and products in jeopardy that are available to our farmers where we have a problem, the state of Missouri needs to take a stand. I ask you to support this bill, and I close.
The gentleman from Bates has renewed his motion for the third reading and passage of House Bill 544. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. The clerk will close the board and tie the vote. With the yeas being 85 and the nays being 72, you have third read and passed House Bill 544. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Staying on that same order of business, I ask that you recognize the gentleman from Douglas for motion on House Bill 68.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Douglas County. For what purpose does the gentleman rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 68 be third read and passed.
The gentleman from Douglas County has moved for the third reading and passage of House Bill 68. Gentleman from Douglas County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I won't belabor this point. I think we touched on most of it the other day. This bill, I hesitate to say it, is a simple bill. It moves the statute of limitations from 5 years to 2 years. It's not people keep on saying it prohibits individuals from their day in court. That's just simply not the case. It's purely fear-mongering. If 45 other states can lower their statute of limitations and make this change, Missouri can do it too. It's good, sound legal policy. It promotes economic viability of our state, puts us in a good place to compete with our neighboring border states who are well below our current 5-year statute of limitations. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll open it up for questions.
Discussion on the bill. Gentleman from Boone County, District 46.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on a few more issues regarding the problems with this bill and how it hurts consumers. So it forces you, as we mentioned before, to file suit, because you have to file suit immediately. You can't negotiate. So you don't have any time to negotiate. You have to file a lawsuit right away, so it increases lawsuits. Now, the sponsor said, well, you get your day in court. Well, let me tell you the problem with that as a consumer, because this is about you. It's about everyone in this building, and it's about your family members. And what happens if you get in an accident? You're rear-ended, you're on 63, someone hits you at 60 miles an hour, you're stopped, or whatever, there's bad weather. So if you don't have that time pressure and you haven't filed suit, you can take time to negotiate. And then the insurance adjuster, they have an incentive to settle with you because they're paid by salary. So the more cases they have, that's just more work for them. So they're more likely to settle your case because they've got no incentive to keep that file on their desk because you're dealing with an insurance company who's paid, like I said, on a salary basis. And so once that case settles, you really don't, as a consumer, you don't really have that many expenses in the case, right? Maybe, you don't have a filing fee. So after the attorney's paid at a lower rate, you get basically all the money, minus maybe a few $100s. So as a consumer, you get the lion's share of the funds. Now, here's the problem with this bill and what happens if you lower that statute and have to file. As far as getting your day into court, we heard the sponsor talk about the discovery process and all of that. Well, once you file, now you've got filing fees, and then the case is assigned to a defense attorney, usually outside of the insurance company. Well, the defense attorney is paid on an hourly rate, and he doesn't make money unless that case is drug out. So he doesn't have an incentive to settle with you. And sometimes there's an unwritten rule in this litigation system that they will settle with you after they've gotten their money out of it, meaning after they do long, protracted depositions, because they're paid by the hour. So now you're dealing with an attorney on the other side who wants the case to drag out. So now before you could have got the case done earlier with more money in your pocket. Now this thing is going on for a year, 2 years, while the defense attorney takes depositions. And let me tell you about a deposition, because we heard about discovery. Well, deposition means that now before, you don't have to do anything. Your attorney does the work, you get a check. Now, you have to show up, and they're going to go after you. You're going to have to sit across from someone for hours while they grill you, because they've got an incentive to do this. That's how they make their paycheck. And then you're going to get interrogatories and requests for production of documents. And they're detailed questions that get into your personal background, about your family, about people you know. And it's not fun. Nobody likes having to do that. That's what litigation looks like. And then, once you're done with this, you're charged all those expenses. And the attorney fees are higher, so you get less money. It's taken a year or two longer. And after everyone's paid out, you're at the end getting paid. That's what it does to you. This is about you, folks. It's not about insurance companies and making litigation or the process more efficient. This is about you. You hear about litigation costs. This is going to cost you if anything ever happens to you. This is bad litigation. And the problem I have with this is because the amendment is so good. The amendment is so good, and who wants to go on record voting against a great amendment? The gentleman from the Sites District. So that's a problem. So I may have to vote present on this because of the great amendment that's on this. And I know that's probably, there's a strategy behind that. But this bill is horrible. I would vote everyone to, vote no or don't vote for it. If you have to vote president, I understand that. But this is a bad bill, and it's bad for Missouri. It doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Further discussion, lady from St. Louis City, St. Louis County 73.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To inquire of the gentleman from Boone, District 47.
Does the gentleman from Boone County District 47 yield? Does the gentleman from Boone County 47 yield?
Adrian.
Yes, I yield.
Proceed.
Hi, gentlemen. It's absolutely not lost on me that we're hearing this bill right after we heard the bill on removing warnings from herbicides or pesticides. I know that you feel a way about the bill we just heard. From me, to hear these bills almost in tandem is gut-wrenching.
It is. I don't even know what to say. Shame on you. Shame on you. I've got lots of people who've died in my district over the years because of pesticides, and I didn't get to speak on it. And I'm not going to say much. I just want to say shame. I just refuse to be an accessory to foreign entities and murdering of Americans with no accountability. So, when you can't even speak to the process to the people in your district, or even Missouri, this is how we're moving forward. We're going to give Germans and the Chinese a free pass. And that's a shame. So, and that's all I got to say, really.
Thank you, Representative. It reminds me, what does it profit a man? It profits a corporation, certainly, but what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? This bill is terrible. The amendment is fantastic and something that is just wonderful, but this bill is terrible. When someone hurts you, you should certainly be able to seek justice. Justice is something that we should be entitled to. Reducing that here is kind of breathtaking. I'm not gonna fuss about it, but again, it's not lost on me to hear these bills back to back. What are we doing? We are here to protect people, and more than anything else, as legislators, we should certainly want, as patriots, we should want our fellow citizens to be able to avail themselves fully of all the processes, be it the democratic, legislative, or judicial processes that are available to them. So, of course, I'm against the bill. I'm torn, like the gentleman from Boone, on the amendment because it's something that I strongly support. But I hate this bill to reduce the amount of time that someone could seek remedy, only because so much of that is out of the aggrieved's control. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, gentleman from St. Charles County.
To inquire the bill handler, please.
Does the gentleman from Douglas County yield?
I do.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I need to ask a clarifying question.
Go ahead.
If I'm an employee at a farm, and due to my work on that farm, I'm exposed to certain chemicals, and several years later, I now have cancer. At what point in time, if this bill passes, do I still have a cause of action?
I guess it depends if you seek out an attorney, right? Because that's where I touched on whenever we were presenting this bill, the reasonable, capable of ascertainment standard, okay? That comes into play when you through your, a reasonably prudent person, if they exercise due diligence, if they aren't able to ascertain or discover the injury, right, then that wouldn't start tolling, or your statute wouldn't start running until that time. So in this case, it would be a diagnosis, and that's tied back to the wrongdoing.
So I would have 2 years from my diagnosis to initiate a claim.
That question as to the statute of limitations would end up going to the jury on that, because, once again, as you as the attorney would be making the case that the statute of limitations of 2 years doesn't apply because of the date of the injury, because you have to tie it back, right? Maybe this is getting too convoluted, but
Let's refocus this. If my injury is due to exposure to any type of chemical in the workplace, does the clock start when I'm first exposed, or does the clock start when I'm diagnosed with cancer?
if you use the standard that's codified in our statute and in case law, you can make the case that it starts when you discovered it.
Okay. Even if there's an EPA label that does not warn against cancer, then I could still have a potential suit due to exposure in the workplace. All right. I appreciate the inquiry. I'm going to be a no on this bill.
Lady from St. Louis City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To inquire of the gentleman from Taney.
Does the gentleman from Taney County yield?
I do.
Hi,
Proceed.
gentlemen. How are you?
Outstanding, lady. How are you?
Got the stuff that everybody else got. So I just have a quick question, and it's not a gotcha question or anything like that.
Sure.
Your amendment, which clearly has wide support across the board,
Right.
Are you going to be putting this amendment on any other pieces of legislation?
I will be looking for that, but it's very slim pickings to get a statute of limitations increase or decrease on another bill. This bill speaks specifically to statute of limitations, so
I understand
hence I
that.
added it.
No, I understand why you added it. I
Sure.
completely understand, but this will not be the last time we hear this amendment.
If we do another statute of limitations bill, I will add this amendment to that, but there's no guarantee. This
Have
is
you
the shot.
also filed this as a standalone bill?
I have numerous protections for children, pieces of legislation.
Did you have possibly a hearing or anything on this particular bill?
On this piece, no. I've had, I think, 3 hearings in the past, and it passed overwhelmingly on the House floor. So I think everyone's cognizant of what I'm attempting to do to help victims of childhood sexual abuse.
So this could just very well, this wouldn't necessarily be the last stop for your amendment.
If I run again in 2 years, it may not be the last time. This might be the last time this year.
Well, I don't know so, but I understand. But the point is, we have other bills out there that this could possibly fit on. You have standalone bills that you also have in committee or potentially that you can add on as an amendment in other places. So just for the body of the other people who may feel like they have to support this because of your amendment or vote present or whatnot, because it is a really good amendment, there are also other opportunities. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that conversation. I appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, gentleman from Cass County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To inquire of the bill handler, please.
Does the gentleman from Douglas yield?
I do.
Proceed, gentleman.
Good morning, gentlemen. So I'm a little perplexed by the bill that we have as amended before us. So on the one hand, the initial bill says that lowering the statute of limitations is a good thing. Now, on the other hand, with the amendments, we are now saying that raising the statute of limitations and giving people more time to file their lawsuits is also a good thing. So I'm wondering, how can it be both that it's good to lower the statute of limitations for personal injury, but it's also on the other side good to be doubling the statute of limitations for the child offenses, which do not start running until they become an adult?
I don't even see them both in the same lens, right? So when you look at reducing the statute of limitations from 5 to 2, I'm looking at this through an economic vitality for the state perspective, okay? As a small business owner, and also from a judiciary standpoint, right? Efficiency, the freshness of evidence. We want to incentivize people to bring their claims earlier, okay? The better that's better for the plaintiff, that's better for the defendant. Inevitably, as a small business owner, if you have somebody file suit against you in 4 years, those employees are going to have left, especially in the retail context, right? You don't know to preserve something to defend yourself as a small business owner. That lawsuit could tank your business. Now, like employees, right? If you have high turnover, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to find them. That produces a large burden on that business. Now, I'm trying to figure out how to word this for you. This is important in that aspect because whenever everybody is, whether it's a small business, whether it's an individual, right? Even in the civil context, there might be an alleged wrongdoing, but it is alleged. Okay, they haven't been found guilty or have committed an offense of anything yet. But if that goes to a jury in 4 years and you have just enough evidence to keep your case going on, okay, so inevitably that jury is going to side with that individual, whether it's frivolous or it's not. We're trying to pass smart policy in this state that allows businesses to grow without burdening the access to justice, and this bill does that. And I still haven't heard from anybody in this body how it is that, and I was actually wrong on my number, it's 48 other states have lesser statute of limitations in the personal context. So, if they can do it, we can do it too. So how is it now? I'm going to address your other point because you brought up the criminal aspect, right? I am not for giving pedophiles, child molesters, if any of those people a pass. I also do plaintiff's work for students with disabilities in the PI context. Okay, if this was bad policy, I would not be putting my name on it and standing in front of this entire body because I have a professional reputation to uphold. And I say it to the citizens of Missouri, this is good policy, you should pass it.
So my retort would be that the same arguments about foggy memories and forgetfulness can also be applied to individuals at these camps. I voted for the amendment, it was passed unanimously, but I think those same arguments could be used on the underlying bill about, or to the amendments about the foggy memories because we're extending from 10 years to 20 years. So I think we could apply those same arguments on the amendment that we passed unanimously. How many minutes do we have, Mr. Speaker?
1 minute, gentlemen.
So my last thing, and I don't know if we got an actual answer on the question from the representative from Matisse's district. So is it 2 years after the discovery of the injury, from 5 to 2, for exposure to chemicals?
Okay, so this is where, so normally it starts to run when you discover the injury, right? So in an automobile context, if you break your leg, something like that, you would know when that injury is, right? But in this context, environmental, whether it's malpractice, if you don't discover it, right, it wouldn't start running until that point. But you have to have obviously an attorney to make that case. Ultimately, whether or not you would have a reason to know that or have been able to discover that would be a question for a jury, so that would be sent to the jury.
So then, yes, it would lower it from 5 to 2 years upon discovery?
The 2 years would apply to everything. Your lawyer would need to make that case, and
Okay.
that's not a hard case to make, in my opinion.
Thank you for the inquiry.
Further discussion, gentleman from Taney County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This legislation has, as stated by both sides of the aisle, a very important amendment that is now part and parcel of the overall bill. Mr. Speaker, according to Child USA, 86% of child sexual abuse goes unreported altogether. However, when victims of child sexual abuse do report, a high percentage of them delay disclosure well into adulthood. The amendment, now part of this bill, gives those victims 10 more years to seek justice. In a study of over 1,000 survivors, the average age at the time of reporting child sex abuse was about 52 years old. I'm simply asking for an increase of 10 years in Missouri, making the total age 41. I do realize that there may be disagreement with the underlying bill. The political reality in this building is that what we send to the Senate, should this bill pass the House, it will be changed in some way, hopefully making it more palatable for all sides. For the first time, I have assurances that the Senate will work hard to pass this legislation in some form. Let us not make perfect the enemy of the good. This is the vehicle in which we can give these adult children a chance. I prayerfully ask for its passage. May God bless the victims. May God bless you, the people's elected representatives, in this bill's passage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, gentleman from St. Charles County, District 108.
To inquire of the speaker of the bill sponsor.
Does the gentleman from Douglas yield?
I suppose.
Proceed, gentlemen.
So I don't like following that because I think that was a very good advocacy for the bill. Fully support that provision, the amendment that was made to it. There's one thing that I think has been missing in a lot of the conversation here. We've heard a lot about car accidents and advocacy for victims. I'm a business owner. I'm a business owner in a very difficult industry. I own a restaurant. One of the biggest fears that I have is that one day someone's going to pop up and say, hey, I injured myself in your restaurant 4 years ago. We're going to court. There is no way that I will defend that. I do not have staff that stays for 4 or 5 years that will have firsthand knowledge of the facts of the case. I don't have any way to record. We don't have video recordings of the cafe for that length of time. This puts me at a 5-year statute of limitations, puts me at an incredible amount of risk, and other small businesses. In the United States, we're about 99.4% of our businesses are small businesses that are incredibly susceptible to lawsuit, especially frivolous lawsuits, and they happen every day. I would much rather have them bring that to me and have a requirement to address this within 2 years. Is it in your experience, have you seen incidents where someone will sit on a lawsuit for 4.5 years and then ambush somebody who's completely unwitting?
Actually, yeah. But if you want me to really spell this out for you, I'm already a stain on the profession in the eyes of the Missouri Bar examiners because I'm a dyslexic attorney who clawed my way to the top. So I have nothing to lose on this one. So this is how this really goes down, guys. 9 times out of 10, when somebody comes into a law office for a divorce and they're figuring out, hey, let's take a look and see at what assets do you have? Let's so that truck, Mr. Smith, that you have, why don't you want to assign a value to it? Well, I wrecked it. You wrecked it? Really? Were you injured? Oh, I have a little bit of back trouble, but nothing serious. Well, did your insurance pay out? Sure did. Well, have you ever thought about filing a suit? Well, no, never really crossed my mind. I don't need to. Well, we only got 6 months to do that, so maybe you should consider it. They came in for a divorce and they're leaving with a PI suit. Happens more times than I'd like to admit. So yes, this happens frequently. It prohibits access to justice. Just simply fear mongering. You'll notice the only people who really stood up to speak against it were attorneys. I do a lot of pro bono work in the students with disabilities context and the PI side. So I don't usually charge those individuals because the people who need it can't get it. So I'm all about access and access to justice. And that's why I said before I wouldn't be standing up here presenting this bill if I really felt it was inhibited justice. The only people that are speaking up against it like that are those who are speaking from their pocketbooks. And it's going to affect their bottom line. This is good policy. It's good for Missouri. 45 other states have done it. Let's do the same.
I appreciate that. This seems like an essential protection for people like me who rely on our small business and can't survive a frivolous lawsuit. If we could do it within 2 years, I'll have a better chance of defending myself. And if the other 45 states can do it, I agree. I think we can too. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the previous question.
The gentleman from Greene County has moved that the question under immediate consideration be now put. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. Has everyone voted? The clerk will close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 107 and the nays being 49, the gentleman's motion is approved. The gentleman from Douglas has 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we've basically hit all the salient points. Once again, we hear a bunch of people speaking from fear-mongering and with no data to back up those claims of an access to justice, clogging up the court systems, all these things. So I just submit to the body if 45 and actually 48 other states can do it in less than 5 years, Missouri can too. It's by far time that Missouri actually lead on this rather than following. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my motion.
The gentleman from Douglas County has renewed his motion for the third reading and passage of House Bill 68. All those in favor of approving the gentleman's motion will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will ring the bell and open the board. Has everyone voted? The clerk will close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 92 and the nays being 42, the gentleman's motion is approved. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business will be announcements.
Announcements. Gentleman from Berry County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good to be back this morning. Your committee on legislative rules will meet immediately because we have a couple members that need to get out of here and get on an airplane. So we're going straight there from here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from St. Louis County.
An announcement, Speaker.
Proceed, lady.
Okay, on this coming Wednesday, February the 26th, we will have our Black History program in Atunda. Everyone is invited, 6 p.m. See you there.
Lady from Buchanan County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Administrative Rules Committee will meet at, listen closely, 12:20 and Hearing Room 5, 12:20. Thank you.
Gentleman from St. Louis County, District 83.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hispanic Day, which was supposed to be this Tuesday, has been rescheduled for March 26th. Thank you.
Further announcements. Gentleman from Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Elections will be meeting immediately after session, and as soon as rules get done in Hearing Room 4, we also will be meeting next Tuesday at 8 o'clock as usual. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further announcements. Seeing none, gentleman from Greene County.
Mr. Speaker, upon return, members should be prepared to consider House Committee Substitute for House Bills 243 and 280, House Bill 875, House Committee Substitute for House Bills 850, 53, and 482, House